Greetings, this video is to help you understand high plains points and how we work them. So why do we use points for cross-country skiing is the first question a lot of people will ask, because in track you can just say here's the qualifying time. But the problem with cross-country skiing is that the speed and how the race goes is completely dependent upon the weather conditions and the snow conditions. Time is meaningless in cross-country skiing. A 5K can be anywhere from 12 minutes to 30, depending on all the weather conditions and the snow conditions. So we can't really use time in any useful way to measure rankings for qualification. So therefore, we use there are multiple ways to rank cross-country ski races. There are three main ways to do it. There's World Cup / Continental Cup points, there's percentage points back, and there's USSA FIS calculations. The first one is World Cup points. This is really simple. There are several models for this, meaning that there's different points assigned to each place, but basically each place receives a set number of points. So for example, in World Cup points, first place is worth 100 points, second place worth 80, third worth 60, fourth worth 50, and it goes on down to 30 places. And that's how that works, and there's a whole set of this. The disadvantages of World Cup points is that it's impossible to accurately compare athletes in different races. They have to be in the same exact race in order to compare them, because they have to be racing head to head. It doesn't take into account the quality of the field. So a field that is very weak, the winner gets 100 points, and a field that's very strong, the winner gets 100 points. And it doesn't make any difference who the winner is or how fast the field is. It also doesn't take into account time. So if a person wins by more than 2 minutes, they don't get better points than if they win by 1 second. It's always the same. So those are the disadvantages of it. The advantages of it is that it's very easy to understand. We know exactly how it works, and it's very easy for people to figure, to calculate. Okay, so that's World Cup points. The percentage back calculation is a little better than the World Cup points, and the way that's done is you take the average of the top 3 athletes in the race, their times, the average time of the top 3 athletes. You find the percentage pace back based upon the formula that you see on the screen here, and it's all worked from that top 3 average. The disadvantages of this is that it's impossible, once again, to accurately compare athletes in different races, because they have to be in the same race to be compared with the same times. So you can't compare across races in any way. It also doesn't take into account the quality of the field. Once again, if somebody shows up, say if Keegan Randall showed up to a Wyoming high school race, then it doesn't take into account that everybody's percentage back would be terrible in that race because her time would be so fast. Whereas if she doesn't show up, then the percentages will be different, completely different. It doesn't take into account that she's really super fast. The advantages of this is that it's really pretty easy to understand. People understand the percentage back pretty well. It's pretty easily calculated. And compared to the World Cup, it does take into account racer times, but it doesn't take into account the quality of the field. Finally, there's the USSA / FIS calculations. Now, FIS, which is the Federation International Skiing, which is it's the top tier of ski racing, and they decided that this was an intolerable situation. This not having any way to rank anybody on the whole, and they decided they needed to find a way of doing this. So they went and talked to a whole bunch of experts and figured out the best way to calculate this. So they came up with this calculation. Basically, this calculation takes the existing points. So you need to have USSA or FIS points. There's a way of dealing with that if somebody doesn't. But if most of them have to have, you take the top 5 athletes, you throw out the best points and the worst points. And so you have 3 points left. You average those, and then you plug it into the formula that's here. Now the formula basically says that you're taking the points, taking the points of the person, of the top 3, and then you're finding the points of each person in the race, and this is dependent upon their time. So it takes into account both the quality of the race and the time of the race. So let's look at we'll look at the disadvantages. It's pretty complicated to calculate, as you can see from this formula before. But the advantages are that you can compare athletes across different races, because it doesn't matter what the race is, how long the race is, as long as the athletes in the race have points, and you can take those points and use the calculation, it will all work out. You can also compare yourself with these points to athletes on the USA list and FIS list. So as an athlete, as a Wyoming high school skier, I can go in and I can say, hey, I have 500 points, and that ranks me as number 423 on the USSA list, and it ranks me as 954 on the FIS list. So worldwide, I'm the 900th fastest skier in the world. Another big advantage is that it takes into account the quality of the race of the field. So that in my scenario before, Kiki Randall shows up to a race in Wyoming, well, her points are so good that it will take into account that her points are really good, and it will figure everybody's points based upon that. So this is a very helpful thing for everybody, because we can tell it doesn't matter who shows up. If the fastest racer in the state isn't there for the weekend, it doesn't make any difference, because it figures everything based upon the points of the people that show up. And okay, and then finally, it's used by USSA and FIS, as well as other USSA divisions do their own sets of points, and some collegiate divisions do this. So it's much more uniform. It matches everybody else's, and it's very helpful. It will also help your kids when they go on to college, because they'll understand how this all works. In conclusion, the USSA FIS points not only provide an amazingly accurate way to rank athletes in high plains, but it also helps provide an indication of his or her ranking on the USSA FIS list. One caveat to be said here is that these are not USSA points, so they're not exactly right. They're taking into account the races that they're doing in Wyoming, which are not USSA races. The USSA races are very specific ones, and their points may not match up because of the few races that most Wyoming athletes do. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to contact me, Christy Boggs, and my email is there. And I hope this helps you understand the High Plains points system. Thanks.